You guys ready?
Mike.
Live. Oh, okay. All right. So we're going to call this meeting of the EAC to order at 5:36. So let's do a roll call. I see myself, Chris and Janet are present. So I recognize that we have quorum. Let's begin with a moment of silence. Now let's move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to this republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item number 4, agenda. Can I get someone to make a motion to consider approving today's agenda?
So moved.
All right.
Seconded.
A motion was made by Janet. It was seconded by Chris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 5, public comment for agenda items. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Item number 6, meeting minutes from our last meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting of the EAC?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion was made by Chris and it was seconded by Janet. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Item number 7, we have no reports today, so we'll go ahead and move on to item number 8, new business. New business item 8.1, discussion and possible action about erecting a Chimney Swift Tower in one of the parks. Parentheses, PA Game Commission through Birdtown.
Yes, and this is something that is sponsored by the Pennsylvania
Mhm.
Game Commission, that they will provide the Chimney Swift Tower. They also do the Purple Martin condo.
Mhm.
The responsibility would be that the townships provides the way that they can mount it into the ground. And for the Chimney Swift, it needs a cement base.
Mhm.
And it depends on where it would be that we could put it. But the gentleman from the Game Commission
Mhm.
will come. I've spoken with him personally. He would come out and look at our parks and see whether any of them would be good for chimney swifts. Now, these are birds that roost at night. They do migrate down through our area, and so they often roost in older chimneys, and they're just not a lot of those. And so I just wanted permission to
Mhm.
have him come and
Some on
look.
my.
Well,
Just saying.
I-
I have to keep them covered so they don't go in.
Yeah. I actually was recently learning about chimney swifts, quite
Yeah.
ironically, like not intentionally, and I did not realize that they're one of several birds in Pennsylvania that have become so human dependent.
Yes,
Because historically they would live in, I think, largely hollowed out dead trees, but because of the way we've developed land, we've removed a lot of these over time. So they then took up residence in chimneys, and now chimneys are going out of style. They're getting capped. People are not building them anymore. So now that it is almost like entirely human dependent species now needs humans to create artificial versions of chimneys so that we don't lose this native.
yes, right.
Actually, they're native species?
Well, they do fly up, so
Yeah.
they're visitors here in the summer. Or
Yes, yeah.
Right. And 38 bird towns have already taken advantage
Mhm.
of the offer by Pennsylvania Game Commission. So I'm hoping they would be
Mhm.
okay to have them come in, assess our parks and see whether one of them would be good for a chimney swift.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I would,
Okay.
if you're gonna do that, and 2 things I'd like to do. One is make sure we discuss it with the Parks and Rec Commission.
I have discussed it with Wade.
Yeah, I think it
Would
needs to
need
go on
to
their
the
agenda.
committee,
Yeah.
yes.
And then secondly, before we go quite that far, I would like to just have a quick conversation with our liaison, just to make sure that it fits kind of where we're headed. I don't think it's a problem,
Right.
and then I would also want to get George involved, just because it is in the parks. And
Yes.
if we're going to do that, my initial thought is I would think the Meadow Preserve is an ideal location maybe even for a couple of them, you know, because it's large.
Yes,
That
it
could be
is.
nice.
It's a large area and maybe there could be a couple that would be there.
I know,
It-
Stefan from the Game Commission said they like to be closer to where houses are,
Oh,
interestingly.
because the
Uh-huh.
chimneys.
Right, right.
Oh,
yeah.
so that could be interesting.
So,
He would evaluate it.
Mhm.
but he can evaluate and,
Yes,
you
right.
know,
Do they have to be on? This is, I'm assuming this program is just for placing them in township property,
They are doing parks.
parks,
That's
okay.
what they're doing, right?
okay,
All right, then I'll reach out to him again.
Yeah.
Or I'll wait until Paul has, Wade has brought it up and their committee has. said-
yeah, just as long as it's
Mhm.
moving forward through that process.
Yes.
You know, I just don't want to come back and say we're doing this in a park and parks say we
Right.
don't really want this in our
Yeah,
park.
right.
Well, and also, we'll talk about that more today, but we do have available budget for the year. So if there's a need, I know you said it has to be based on concrete. If there's a
Yes,
need for
it
some
is,
kind of
right.
pour,
There is, right, yeah.
then we can look at, Parks probably doesn't have the budget for it. That could be something we could put budget towards potentially. I don't know how much that is, but we'll,
I think it's
more than you think.
$300 up.
Yeah.
Is the cost of that cement plate. Right.
But then we also might find an area that already has it.
What is the sweep itself made, the chimney itself made out of? Is it is it
I think
wood?
it's plywood, yes. right.
Okay,
Now,
Yeah,
if you need a really taller one, you have to construct it out of stone.
okay,
But this one I think is 14 feet tall. I think.
okay.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Right.
Only reason I asked,
These
Meadow
fine.
Preserve, the Meadow Preserve, we're hoping to do controlled burns at some point. Then
Yeah.
it may not be good to have a wooden structure in the,
Well, and
Yeah.
we don't have a lot of,
it's not near a lot of structures.
it's not near a lot of structures, but it is right up against EA and there is a
Yeah.
farm building there by the community garden. So it's not necessarily completely opposed to it, but yeah, that's a good point.
Right.
So we just need to look at, I think we need to make sure that we're communicating that when he's looking at the parks.
Yes.
You know, some parks, we don't ever have to worry about that. That's not
Right.
necessarily. That's one place that I know that's the intent. Once we get
So,
it converted.
To get on his list.
Yeah,
because there
that's
are
fine.
Others who, all the Birdtown leaders have been informed of this opportunity by the Game Commission. He says he thinks he has funds through 2027.
Okay. Well, I think we could move quickly if we get everything lined up.
Right, okay, very good. I'm
I actually think
happy
we
that-
should maybe think about having just like a deeper conversation with Wade of Parks and Rec, just about the Newtown Meadow Preserve in general. To see,
That conversation is starting up.
it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is, right.
I'll reach out to him too about that. Make a note to myself, because there might be other things we can do to support that. I know there's a lot of invasives in there. I
Yes,
know,
right.
there might be opportunities to bring things in. I know, like, for example, at our house, my husband and I are talking about, we're thinking about getting owl boxes this year, screech owl boxes. But that is a little project too, because they do primarily need to be mounted on poles or else the squirrels wreak havoc on them. And it's like, you ideally have two of them, and I think we can do it at our house, but that could be, I would love to see owls. I love owls. Owls might be amazing to have in the Newtown Preserve. That could be super cool to have a couple owl poles and a couple owl boxes.
Yeah.
Not
Drexel Lodge Park would be a good place.
another great place, but especially in the preserve, because of the meadow, presumably we're getting a lot of critters that would be excellent
Oh,
food
yeah, right.
for the owls. But you can only have a few because they do not like competition. So that is a whole thing, but maybe I'll look into that a little bit more too.
Probably a conversation with Willistown Conservation Trust.
Yeah,
I bet they
Well,
have these kind of projects.
they do. I know about the screech owl boxes. It's more like those need to be mounted on we're talking about like a 15-foot narrow pole
Right,
that would
yeah.
probably have to be anchored in concrete. And then we'd have to make sure it was, ideally you'd have two in the meadow, because apparently they like to have options. Screech owls apparently enjoy having second homes. Yeah, they are a fancy owl. What can I say? But and then maybe we can talk to him also, we'll, at one of our next items, when we talk about long-term projects, that could be a good one as well. And actually, that is item 8.2. Actually, is there anything else related to the Chimney Swift Tower?
No,
Does it require any annual maintenance we would have to plan for?
no, it
No.
doesn't. Not like the Purple Mark.
Not like you have to-
Condos where you have to
Yeah,
lower them,
or even the
clean them
block that we need
out.
to remove the nests. I don't know if that's a thing with the chimney Swifts, but we can always make it work.
Good.
All right.
And the only thing we would have to do is the footer.
Cement
Yeah.
Yeah.
footing.
There's always a chance though, maybe a donation or, we'll talk a little bit about, and also timing, because if it's not something that, if this is not gonna happen by the end of the fall, then it could be something we budget into next year
Okay.
as well.
So I understand it may take some time.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of years before the
Oh,
Swifts
okay.
find it.
That is all the
Decide.
true screech owls,
Right,
2 to 3
yeah.
years to get them to actually reside.
Right.
Okay, it's a long-term investment.
It is, right.
Do you happen to know, like, do the chimney Swifts, do they mind, like, if we wanted to look at multiple towers separately, do they mind having other chimney Swifts nearby, or?
That I don't know.
I don't know either. We
Yeah.
can look into it though, because it would be pretty cool to use the Newtown Meadow Preserve as like a point for a lot of this type of thing.
We do have bird boxes in there.
Yeah.
Right, and so it's nesting time now.
Yeah. You could do like, just imagine doing like a moonlight tour of the preserve to listen for owls.
Or something else I'm working on is a moth night. Where you
Oh.
go to someplace dark,
Yeah.
you put up a screen, like a
Mhm.
white sheet. Turn on the lights, and then the insects that are out at night will come, congregate there, and you can identify what kind of insects you have. We're in an insect crisis, so it'd
Mhm.
be good to. And I've been in touch with an eye naturalist
Mhm.
who is volunteering to do that for townships.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Also like lightning bugs at night. Maybe we should have a lightning bug night. Presumably there's a lot of them out there. Although I have actually never been to the Newtown Meadow Preserve at night.
Well, I haven't either. Wouldn't go alone.
Oh, it's pretty safe out there. It's right between Lissitor and EA. There's not a lot of crime and danger happening around there.
Isn't there like sightings of coyote in the area?
Oh, coyotes.
Steve, do you know that?
Coyotes are pretty human shy.
I was gonna say, I think
yeah.
there's fox, but I don't know that I've heard the coyote, but maybe.
All right.
The coyotes won't generally
Check with Mike
bother
McGraw,
people.
he would know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anybody reporting coyote, but I have heard about the fox.
Right. And well, they're pretty common.
Yeah, they're very common.
Sleeping in my yard this morning. Big,
We have a big
Bright,
fox in our neighborhood right
bright.
now.
red
Mhm.
fox. He got up and moved back a little bit.
Excellent. Okay, well, we'll maybe have a follow-up. I don't know if it'll be in time for the next meeting if we'll have
Okay.
gotten that far, but we can always add it.
Okay.
So item 8.2, discussion and possible action on EAC long-term opportunities. So just kind of to set the stage here, this is a chance for us, and I do have a list to talk about what are things and not quite at the point of action them. What are things from, let's say, this laundry list of wish list of things we might do in the next 18 months that we should think about putting together either proposals for, considering, grants and or needing to have conversations within the township and other areas that we might want to invest in. So I know, Janet, I'd heard that you had a thought related to soft landings recently.
And I think that's something that Doug Ptolemy from
Mhm.
Homegrown National Park is pushing also. And Delaney, Donna Delaney, do you know her place out in Westchester?
No, but I've heard of her
Go
name.
someday
Yeah.
out there. She has 10 acres of native plants
Mhm.
there. And so soft landings is that many insects, when they've gone through the egg stage, they'll drop down into underneath the trees, or they're on the trees. And then they drop down underneath the trees. And if that's covered with mulch or concrete, they have no place where they really can nestle in
Mhm.
and mature. So anytime And I really wish that the township would have a uh, requirement that anyone who is doing mulching
Mhm.
around trees, that they have an understanding that you do not mulch right up to the tree trunk, because it's detrimental to the tree. You need to leave like at least 6 inches away from the tree trunk where that flare starts. You need to be able to see that flare. But how often I see mulching off, it's just right up there. They
Mhm.
tuck it in, and I don't know that they are being informed of how detrimental that is to trees. So I don't know whether how would we do that, Steve? Make sure they are,
Well, I mean, I think you could do education.
Yeah.
I think that's the key.
yes, I do too.
I don't know that there's a way that we control whether Mrs. Smith mulches too much of her tree or
Right.
not. But I do think that, you know, using the newsletter, using other opportunities, the farmer's market, different things like that is a way of getting that information out. Something like that could even potentially, be shared with, what is it, the Newtown Square magazine and things like that, just as like a feature article kind of thing,
Right.
or a sub-article kind of thing in there. So,
Or, another thought is, for example, this year when we did the tree giveaway on Arbor Day, we put together a handout that was about the importance of caging and caring for saplings. We could
Right.
include, I mean, it's a smaller item, but in future tree giveaways or tree events or these types of events, like
Sure,
something
it
a
should
little
always
more
be part of it.
comprehensive around that, also related to that, tree volcanoes, right?
Yes.
Tree volcanoes are, for people who don't know, you'll see a lot of trees that are elevated off of ground level that are both heavily mulched, so kind of like a
Right.
little triangle under them. It's actually very bad for the trees.
Yes.
I think it's a practice that has kind of actually gone out of favor, but there's historically still a lot of trees that are volcano. It actually leaves the roots really exposed to changes in temperature and freeze.
They're not really down there deep and.
And there are
Right.
actually ways to undo mulch volcanoes over time. I think it's a little more complicated, but maybe we could package those together with
Right.
education or the future.
So I took the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society's tree tender.
Mhm.
And this is one of the things that they discuss in learning how properly to
Yeah.
plant trees, is to keep the
Yeah.
mulch away. And really mulching with leaves is much better anyway.
Mhm.
Right.
But circling back to soft landings, I mean,
Yes.
I think soft landings is the type of thing that could be an EAC giveaway event of type, for example, someone put the thought in my head that maybe we should go back to families who have gotten trees from us in the past, over the last couple of years and say,
Right.
hey, we have this new program. Let's talk about how you can create a soft landing around the tree the township gave you, and either look at maybe budgeting out something for some plugs where they could start putting that together, or even just doing some outreach communication.
So we're talking about grasses and clovers.
Grasses, fern, I know ferns, for example, I know particularly with oak trees and stuff, I think ostrich fern, I need to do some at mine. When they get to a certain size, they can create really beneficial microbial environments.
Right.
Or just, some general education around it. So that could be a little more targeted. It could be a township program, like it could be an EAC program, like, hey, instead of giving away trees, we're giving away a starter kit to create a soft landing around your existing tree. As long as it's not a Norway maple, we're not gonna go there, but as long as it's not a Norway maple, that could, instead of giving away trees, we could give away a smaller, more cost affordable kit that could be just, a few, 3 or 4 or 5, 6 landscape
yeah.
plugs that could help people kind of take their existing trees and turn them into better
Healthier
ecosystems.
for them, yeah.
Yeah.
If you go to Chanticleer, their big trees all have soft landings underneath it. Grasses, like some of those ferns, so
This is
they're
true,
a good
but
lesson.
I love Chanticleer, and my favorite tour I've ever taken was a behind the scenes material sustainability tour with their grounds crew. But I try not to go to Chanticleer and compare myself, because that is not they're
Well, that's the ultimate, right?
yes.
One can strive.
So that might be something also that could be, soft landings could be a relatively affordable EAC program, like with our existing allocated budget, that's something you
Okay.
could do for. I mean, you could probably do a soft landing for 100 trees for maybe $250. I think that sounds pretty feasible, especially with plugs or
Right.
seed kits. There could be a lot of ways to do that at like a larger scale. So I would definitely keep that in the mix of possible projects.
And then is the library topics, is this a good time to discuss?
Yeah, library
those?
topics, for
Because
sure.
You did send out some topics. Making your lawn more sustainable, easy solution for homeowners.
These could be ideas. So, I think the first question is, do we think we'd have enough of an audience show up in person to learn about these topics? Although I know a lot of EACs are doing, and other townships are doing a dual format where they do a live session, but they also do a live stream at the same time. I don't know if that could be done over there, if it would have to be done here. But
Right.
yes, I think, possible topics could be making a more sustainable lawn, right? And not the whole shebang, but rather like, what are the steps you can take to understand to basically make your lawn look good, but be a little bit more sustainable for what's happening, particularly under the soil. That could be one. We could do a feature on what are sort of, the top 5 most ecologically valuable, highly deer resistant, highly drought resistant native plants,
Yeah.
trees, shrubs, ferns, ground covers that really do thrive in Newtown Square. I think that could be a great topic. Again, it kind of dependent on, we might need to find a way, before we invest in doing this, let's make sure we think, do we think people would show up is a great
So The
question.
library has just
Yeah.
this year started a, if it's monthly or bi-monthly, program. So
Mhm.
they bring in speakers. So I'm hoping that it becomes something that people realize, oh, this is, a good way to learn something and to
Mhm.
socialize.
Yeah.
Right. The library, I am really impressed with our library.
Mhm.
It's vibrant. There's so many things that are happening. I feel like I should come and learn Mahjong, but I haven't yet. But yes, I'm happy to hear that they're thinking of a series of talks. And one of the things I would like to add is a workshop that's based on the understanding of that bird glass collisions
Mhm.
are a leading threat to birds, killing hundreds of millions of birds annually, and collaborate to enable communities to take meaningful science-based action to reduce bird glass collision. So we have been working with the the advocacy committee. I'm on the advocacy committee for Valley Forge Audubon. And we have put together a trifold that really shows how the strikes are impacting not only high buildings, but also our homes as well. And that there are solutions. We have a kit that I've ordered that's free that shows the bird-friendly dots that you can put on your windows. And then a few other options, but the bird-friendly dots are really the ones that are most. And it could be that we could get a grant, or if we have any of our windows here, especially the library windows, where birds might be striking, that we could get a grant to cover our windows. So this is something that is being worked on through the Bird Safe Philly. They have a grant, and they've done the Conshohocken Library. And so
Yeah, I know Jenkins recently put
I was there, I helped do it. I helped put it
Did
up.
you help them?
I did, I wanted to learn how to do it.
Not only, they look really upscale too, which is not a bad thing. That's a great thing, but I know that was quite a bit of money, so we would definitely be in
Yeah.
grant territory. But they also have, Jenkins has exceptionally large, tall glass areas.
Yeah,
That's not
right.
a typical, but I think that building all in was like 15,000 for materials and installation, but those are exceptionally large windows. Yeah, definitely. Let's see.
Just beeping.
Sure. Other ideas, I think we do have one that's sort of already in process, which is I did previously put together a proposal for an Eagle Scout project, which might create a small micro native plant nursery, but we need to find the right Eagle Scout for that. For that one, though, it doesn't really require much from us. I had already volunteered to offer as an advisor to it. And because the Eagle Scouts do their own fundraising, there's no
Right.
actual money involved. That we've already spoken about with George, and he's got a little spot where they could put a couple of raised beds in there. But that I would be excited about if we can get it done in the next year, because it gives us the chance to potentially put in some really quick spreading deer resistant natives that we can continually harvest for township giveaways, as opposed to having to invest money in upfront plants.
Does it have to be an Eagle Scout from the area?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know.
We all
Yeah.
get someone from St. Annie's, who
Mhm.
really is a Brummel, who
Yeah.
will do things here, like the bird boxes that we
Mhm.
put in. By the way, one of your neighbors, Jan Lepone, sent me a picture of her.
I know she
Bluebird.
shared it with me as well, that she had bluebirds in her
Very
box.
excited, very excited. I'm
Yes, she was.
happy to hear it. Right,
No, I don't think necessarily. I do know, though, that there are usually enough Eagle Scouts looking locally that they're
Okay.
in need of projects. The only reason we don't have them right now is because of the timing of the cycle. I think George already has 2 active Eagle Scout projects, so it'd probably be like 26 to 27 timing when they'd actually find someone to do it. But that is a very easy to do, achieve, low maintenance option. You know, I set up one of those at my house just by going to Home Depot pretty easily, but these would be much nicer variants. That would be more like a sustainable source of material for us. We don't have to keep asking for donated plants.
yes.
Okay, so other ideas, you know, and again, these were just spitballing ideas. We can kind of decide, you know, one thought I had, like, might it be cool to do, you know, yard consultations at some point, you know, offer to go to a few people's homes and then put together little reports on how can they make their yards more sustainable, or how can they naturalize them. I think it's a cool idea. It's obviously a little bit resource constrained and really couldn't be done at scale because of volunteer hours. I like the idea, but I feel like maybe not this year or next
Right.
year, maybe an idea for the future. Another thought is, I would love us to have like, maybe one larger signature event each year that we also probably put a little bit of money behind, even if it has to come from grants and the such, focused on the fall, because the fall is the best time, hands down, to plant trees,
Right,
shrubs. I'm big on trees and shrubs in particular. Right now, you know, we do have Arbor Day, but timing wise, it's fine, but it's less ideal. You know, I think it would be great if we could do something in the fall. I think if we also, I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for giving away highly deer resistant, highly drought resistant, small trees and shrubs, targeting residential communities or residential plots of land that are more in like the 1/4 to 1/2 acre size, that aren't going to accommodate like a large oak, but could accommodate like a 15 to 20 foot
yeah.
redbud, for example, or if not a redbud, you know, the dwarf chinkapin oak or something of that nature, or shrubs. You know, I could even say, like, gosh, wouldn't it be cool if we had a campaign where we went around Newtown Square for a year and all we did was try to get people to remove and replace their Japanese barberry. There is no plant I hate on earth more than the Japanese barberry. It
It's
is
a tick draw, isn't it?
many reasons. The main reason is there is research substantiating it has a significant role in the spread of Lyme disease on the Northeast. If you remove barberry in an area that it has been at in volume over the course of the next, I think it was like 5 years, you'll see at least a 60% reduction in Lyme carrying ticks. Because what it does is it's not just that it's deer resistant, it's actually resistant to birds as well. Because of the spikes inside of the Japanese barberry, no creatures can get in that would normally feed upon the tick population. And it creates a small microclimate that is particularly humid that actually, it's basically a tick condo. It's bad. And they were very popular in the 90s, and there are a lot of them around. You know, I think if we can get some funding together, use some of our funding to sponsor maybe a Japanese barberry replacement. Or, you know, I see them all over town, but it's obviously a large undertaking for individual businesses and residential landowners to
Requires education, for sure.
education, money, effort. You know, they are not fun plants to remove. They are very pokey. They require a little bit of skill. You know, but, you know, especially if we look at, you know, we could look at buying like large bulk volume shrubs from something like Octorara with a grant or some budget or some township money and kind of make that like a focus for next year. I think that could be exciting. I also think it's a chance to bring in more fun and colorful deer resistant shrubs, and not like just the traditional replacements, some of the ones that actually work, false blue indigo.
And for birds, the shrubs are very important.
Yes.
Birds like, they're on the grass and they fly up into the shrubs, not up into the canopy.
Yeah. But I think that's also compelling because I think you can get people behind an understanding of it's not just about providing native shrubs, it's that Lyme disease and all tick-borne
Right.
diseases are a significant major concern. And so that would be, I think, valuable around the world. The minute I learned about that, I went outside and I pulled up all of my barberry in the first week, but mine were relatively small. Yeah, or trees, again, small compact trees. I think it would
Right.
be super cool if we were somehow able to get like a nice set of seedlings for these dwarf chinkapin oaks. These are the oaks that Doug Talany talks about that are very compact. They don't get above 15 feet
Huh, which is unusual.
and they can produce full acorns in, I think, 3 to 5 year time frame. And they actually are they aren't as deer resistant as other choices, but they are moderately deer resistant. They do need to be caged when young, but they then become large enough that deer are not going to bother the leaves and the substantial greenery. Let's see, other ideas, quite a few. The winters, I think maybe a huge winter sowing event would be super fun if we start
No,
collecting.
we're not talking about sewing sweaters, right?
No, winter sowing being, you take a clear milk gallon jug, you cut it mostly in half, and you poke a couple holes in the bottom, and you put about 4 to 5 inches of potting soil and some seeds and some water. And what they do a really excellent job of, they are a de facto cold frame greenhouse, where if you put native seeds in there in like the December, January, February timeframe, you get a very, very high germination rate for native perennials that have to go through a period of cold,
Right.
wet
yes.
climate. And it's also great because all you need is a little milk jug. It works high germination
And then they
rate.
say, fasten the top back on, don't they?
You generally leave the top off, but only the little area where you have I don't know what it's called, like the twist on plastic cover.
Yes, right.
Yeah, and actually, Master Gardener is what we do when we put this together is we actually will do it in the middle of winter and we will put snow in them instead of water so that you don't have to bring them inside and thaw them. But that would be pretty fun, if we'd really need to provide our seeds and potting soil, and we can get
Right.
donated milk jugs, maybe have that as either a library event or something we can do in the winter. Then people could take them home and they could kind of germinate them on their own and be able to plant them in their own yards. Or
Would you say February would be a good time to do that?
February would be a great time.
Because people are really longing for
Yeah.
spring.
You can do it as early as December.
Right.
February is there are some species that need longer, but realistically it works out fine.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a pretty low cost activity that I think, kids can get involved in.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, that could be a good one. We'd have to, again, low cost.
We could work with Angela
Yeah,
for students.
and I think we could get plenty of donated milk jugs. I don't
Yes.
think that would be a huge issue. Just to kind of round off the list of ideas, another great one to consider, the governor already has a program out there called the Pennsylvania Invasive Replacive Program,
Yes, right.
which we did education on. And this is basically people can sign up and they have to commit to remove an invasive tree or shrub, and in exchange, the governor's office provides them with a tree or shrub to replace the invasive one. The way we could potentially get more involved is I noticed this year, the closest pickup spot was at least 30 minutes from us. We could talk with Parks and Recreation about, could we be a pickup point? There would be no cost associated with that, but I did reach out to them just to kind of understand. I know the program is interested in that. They normally reach out to potential pickup locations in the January timeframe for pickups that would happen in May. So May of 2027. I know we have some folks who volunteered at those before. That might be an option. I could see certainly there being some township parks that could definitely work. I mean, it's just a 2-day commitment with volunteers and location. But I think that would be a way to get more people from our community to maybe participate in this program, which again provides great trees and shrubs and education and get people engaged in that.
Right.
We'd have to obviously talk to Park and Recs.
We did
Yeah.
a similar program when Pico was doing a tree giveaway. And so we opened up, I think it was Drexel Lodge Park. And I don't think it was a 2-day commitment, but I think it was like a pretty good full day on our half. But we had
So when I say 2-day, I mean, I think they have to drop off the
Yeah.
plants the day before instead of the morning of, so
Yeah.
not like a
Yeah.
huge commitment. I could be wrong, though. It might be same day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's, even if it is, that's not a big deal. And, I think we can make that work.
Yeah, I
So
think
do
that
they sell out of that?
they do. I think not as quickly as they sold out of the Meadow Pits, which was
Right, oh, like that.
that was
right?
actually, we forgot to talk about Meadow Kits. Yeah, that Meadow Kit program Pennsylvania put out I think it was the Pennsylvania, I don't know if it was the DCNR, or if it was another office. They sold out lightning
I think
fast.
it was, they had 300, but it was only like.
It was only 300. Yeah,
This town, I mean,
yeah,
those.
but it was
Delaware
really
County for
popular.
Counties, it was
Yeah.
like 10 per county,
Yeah.
not very much.
And so that's another program we could consider putting together, like a mini Meadow Kit. I mean, Janet, I know you've done some of that before, but it really would just involve buying, bulk seed mix, probably from Ernst at volume, and then dividing them down
Right.
into smaller packets and giving people instructions for kind of how to smother, maybe like a 10 by 10 foot or 3 by 5 foot area in their yards. And then just, it does take a little bit of time for meadows to establish, but
Sure.
a couple $100, you could stand up a whole mini meadow program for residents. Maybe interested. I gotta write that one down because it wasn't even on my list. So that's a lot of ideas.
A lot of ideas.
So then maybe
Yes,
let's-
we'll have to hone them down. to
Yes, so that would be the question is,
Which ones this year, next year?
which ones, Chris, feel free to weigh in. For myself, Janet, I'm also happy to hear from Mary and Steve as well. Which ones do we think are the most promising ones that we should flesh out a little bit? And then, talk about with our board of supervisors counterparts, run it through the township. We have some details together first. Does anyone have any strong opinions?
Well, I think anything you could get for free.
Free is right at the top of my list, so I have already requested that the invasive replacive program
Yes,
reach out to
yes.
us in January, because January is the time frame where they start talking about potential host sites for the following one. I think that's an easy one, as long as Parks and Rec is amenable. And we could certainly also coordinate volunteers ahead of time. I know actually Cindy Nihalo has volunteered at one of those in the past.
Okay.
I think that's a very promising one. It would probably happen in the May timeframe, but we could plan for that. Free is always better. And also an opportunity, to bring people in for something free that we can then provide education and information around.
So does the Barbary count as something invasive to remove?
It absolutely does. I do feel very strongly about trying to get rid of Japanese barberry. And I think, if I were to put money behind a program, like more money than we have available on the EAC budget, it would be targeted at getting rid of Japanese barberry and replacing it with either very small compact trees or different types of shrubs that can actually thrive in Newtown Square. That, by the time you get into shrub pricing, we are probably talking about, in the low thousands of dollars to do it on a large scale, which is, potentially accomplishable either by some combination of our funds and ask for funds, a grant.
When you say low thousands,
I mean,
are we talking 25, 30,000 or?
oh,
I mean, like,
2,000 to 4,000,
okay.
Steve.
Well,
so
no, and that's why I'm
Yeah.
asking the question, because depending on what project
Yeah.
I'm looking at, 25,000 might be low versus.
No. So let's say, the largest wholesale supplier of quality native shrubs in our area is Octoraro Nursery, which is about an hour and 15 minutes away. And I'd say, depending on the size of their saplings and shrubs, they run in the $15 to $25 range for relatively small compact ones. Which again, kind of depends on what they have available. So, depending on how many of those you wanted to do, I also think it's important if we look at doing something like that, particularly for trees, we talk about doing not just the plant, but also like a tree cage or even shrub cages, which can be made relatively inexpensively, or include, they sell tree covers as well. It's very affordable. Like, I think the larger scale one I would imagine would be under $5,000. I just practically, logistically speaking, I think anything beyond that, then you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of items that would be a little bit challenging, but I have written a proposal for this already that I could circulate. It would
How do you
just-
feel about it? I'm really not sure that you have any passion
Yeah.
at all related to this.
You know, it wouldn't take a lot of effort. I think it would be very similar in scale to what we saw during the Arbor Day event. I wouldn't do it during Arbor Day, though. I would again do it in the
the
fall. So
fall,
we'd
yeah.
probably be talking about fall of 2027. We actually, to be fair, we actually could coordinate something for fall of 2026, but that's a little tighter. I think there's other things we can do with.
Yeah, we have the sustainability conference.
Yeah, because I know we have about, was it like around $1,600? So I'm saying we probably need to set aside 300 to 500 for the conference. So maybe we have $1,000.
Maybe
aside.
that concrete slab that needs to go
Yes,
in.
it could be the
Right.
concrete slab. It could be a smaller scale giveaway we could do in the fall. It could be for soft landings, which is another
Right.
choice. You know, we can get, I mean, with $1,000, we could get,
And that would be a spring.
I would
Yeah.
think about the fall. You know,
Really?
fall can be harder for
Okay.
some things like certain types of grasses, but you can really, if you do landscape plugs, which work out to about $1.50 each, I mean, you're talking about maybe 800 perennials you can budget in for $1,000 sourced from North Creek, for example. Particularly since I imagine we're not paying tax on those. And you can get them delivered for $150 if you don't want to drive out there with with a pickup truck. I mean, that could be in and of itself a pretty sizable perennial giveaway. We could also look at some combination of, you know, I think this was a discussion, like we could maybe do like a focused one. We could even, there's a lot of options out there. I think, you know, first I would say, like, let's first find out if the Chimney Swift project is one that we could budget for this year,
Okay.
because I would imagine the concrete pour is gonna be pricey. Probably not more than 1,000, but probably close.
Right, they said
Yeah.
300 to 1,000.
Yeah, depending on the location.
Right, yeah.
I think that would be a good use of funds, because it's something that's, you know, education and demonstration. And whatever's left over,
And it comes with
yeah.
a sign as well.
Yeah,
So
that's
not only do they provide the chimney,
Mhm.
the signage goes with it. And then volunteers help to put it up and we have to pay the cost for the concrete.
Mhm. And that also might be something that we could prepay in the fall, even if it wasn't going to get poured until
Right,
next
yeah.
year, I would imagine.
Yeah, volunteers, it would be pretty cheap.
Right.
Concrete's cheap.
Well, so I, having played with concrete, I will say, wow, does it take a lot more concrete than you think? And two, I would imagine the township and their legal services is not going to be okay with volunteers. Steve, thoughts? I have built a retaining wall on my land and I thought it would take 30 pounds of concrete. It took 300 pounds of concrete.
Oh, gosh.
Powder. That was a surprise to me.
Hmm.
But no, I mean, I think that has to be professionally done for sure. I would probably budget that over there, but I will say, you know, when we talk about something like a perennial giveaway, there's a very short lead time required for that.
Right.
You know, I don't want to lose money that we're not going to spend this year, but it would take a matter of a couple weeks to put in the purchase for, you know, a huge thing of perennials. Like that would not be a very large lift.
So back to the chimney swifts, I know a number of townships close by are putting in the Chimney Swift Tower. I'd love to go and just be
Mhm.
present when they're constructing it, putting it up to see what kind of, how that works. And we'd maybe be able to come back with a bit more understanding of the process. So I'll volunteer to do that.
Excellent. Okay, so Chimney Swift's invasive replacive giveaway because it's free. I'd say I'll tweak a proposal for some sort of fall of 2027 shrub or small tree giveaway. I'm not sure, Steve, if we want to do something that exceeds the EAC budget. I imagine that's something we could potentially, and again, it's going to be in the very low thousands of dollars. It's not going to be huge ask we could potentially bring to the Board of Supervisors a request for the 2027 budget. Is there like a timeline on that?
Yeah, I'll probably be asking somewhere well, this is the June meeting, so probably about the July timeframe
July.
for you to start submitting for 2027
That wouldn't be a problem. I mean, I have all of
So-
the I mean, I know what the pricing is from
Yeah.
Octoraro, so depending on, I don't know if you guys have a preference for shrub versus small trees or some combination thereof. You know, let's figure out a manageable number. I don't think well, if I would exceed like 150-gallon plants, I'd be able to just, transiting them places, coordinating them, that might be a lot. And depending on where trees and shrubs, I could put together a few different options because I think that's a reasonably small ask that would be nice to plan for fall of next year.
Well, when we partner with Parks and Rec
Mhm.
in order to do things like this. Do we partner with their budget as well?
Well, like,
Um,
for example, the tree budget, when we
Yeah.
did the tree giveaway, I did all that as one budget.
Mhm.
I didn't, I think we stuck it all under,
I think you put it under the EAC,
The-
but it was really for the,
yeah, well, it was more of the shade tree, I guess.
right,
But at the time, the first one was really driven by EAC. And so, that's why it went there. But both groups wanted to do it. I try to budget based on what it is, not on who asked for it, if that makes sense.
okay.
So if we're looking at something to do with trees, it falls under the tree section of the budget.
What about shrubs?
Well, shrubs, I would think it kind of fits in the same.
That's it.
I think trees and shrubs and something else, if I could say it. But trees and shrubs and those kind of things, I think they all fit kind of under the same area. Typically, because when we do the budgeting, we use a state
Mhm.
level of coding. And so they don't care whether EAC comes up with the project or whether Parks and Rec comes up with the project, whether Shade Tree comes up with the project. They really care, are we putting the money basically in the
Yeah.
area that it's being spent?
Right.
I would like to go after Japanese barberry is my number one, and my number two would be, and this is a little more challenging to source. If we can get a hold of, 25, 50, or even 100 dwarf chinkapin oaks. And that usually has to happen in the early spring. And the challenge there is sourcing them because they're not widely available. And when they are available, they get sold very, very quickly. Because it is still sort of like a niche. It is actually a native tree. It's not even a cultivar.
Mm,
It is a dwarf oak.
well, small oak.
Yes, that grows quickly and produces acorns quickly, can be put on any, quarter-acre residential home, stays small, has the highest wildlife value of any small tree you can imagine because it supports the same 400 species
Yes, right.
that a large mature oak would, but in a very small, compact form. That would be my other half, Barbary and the oaks. That would be a good place to start. So I'll put that on the list.
So we're gonna do,
Mhm.
pull out the invasives.
And then I
put
would,
in the good stuff.
yeah, the Eagle Scout project will kind of proceed as it does or doesn't, depending on Eagle Scout available. That's also not a budget ask,
No,
so it's
not
not.
good.
And then I'd say,
How about the milk cartons?
I would like to do the winter sowing. It's a relatively small budget ask
Winter,
as well. We
winter.
could also budget, I mean, yes, we might get donations of seeds and soil, but I'd also like to be cognizant that we ask for a lot of donations and, we could budget something as little as $200 towards that
Right.
to get soil and do a bulk order from Ernst of like a good, that, or we could do different species too. And that the only real constraint there is just having a place to do it, which I think could be done at the library. I still think we need to do it outdoors, but it would be nice if people had the option to come inside and warm up at the same time. I mean, worst case scenario, I can host this at my house. We do have a large house and a large property. It could certainly be done outdoors at my house, but that I think we can, I think we can potentially do a lot of these. And then,
That's a Lodge Park under the,
yes, but February, winter, it would be nice to have an indoor place to go to. It is pretty cold in February.
sometimes.
That's true. That's true.
This one, whoa.
We could do it at my house, it's possible, unless that's like a township
All right, well,
liability
we can discuss
concern.
that as we get
Yeah.
closer.
Get space heaters.
And then I think, Janet, if you want to offer to the library, these 3 topics we've talked about, so like the lawn sustainability, deer resistant
Okay.
natives, maybe naturalizing yard, if there's one of them they feel like they're audience would be interested in, I can definitely develop a talk on it. That's no problem.
Okay. And then there's the option that we could partner with Garrett Williamson.
Yeah,
So, because they've been really it's so much closer this year than they have in the past. So I
Mhm.
really feel like we're increasing that partnership and it's
Mhm.
working really well.
It could be a good place to do winter sewing as well because they do have the
We
facility.
have that barn there.
Yeah, and they have an indoor space, so we could do it
Right.
there as well, and they have a lot of space for it. And
Right.
for anyone who hasn't gone, I did go to the first farmer's market there last week, and it was wonderful. I picked my own strawberries. I got something to drink. There was music. I bought snap peas. It was very delightful. My daughter bought all this chocolate. So it's every other Friday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Garrett Williamson at Urban Roots Farm through the end of the summer.
Every other.
Every other
Friday.
week.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. And I've signed up for Birdtown, EAC, to table on August the 8th, August the 7th, I think.
Okay, so we have only 4 minutes. Let's move on to item 8.3. How about this? How does everyone feel about adding a section to the EAC website for home composting options, deer-resistant natives, riparian buffers, and naturalizing yard? Do we want to, I would propose a motion that we adopt sections on the website for those 4 topics.
On the website?
Yes.
Yes, so they'd be there all the time, right?
Yes.
I think those are important messages.
Would you like to second the motion?
I second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and pass
Just
that.
repeat the 3 again.
I think there's 4. So
Okay,
riparian buffers, caring for riparian buffers, and also what are riparian buffers?
Yes.
Different options for composting depending on whether you live in a large, small home or apartment. A kind of just resource list of deer-resistant natives for different locations.
Right,
And general information on how you can make your yard and property more sustainable.
good.
So we'll write those up and send them on to the township for review and publishing. I don't think it'll be too much of a lift. I would propose that we use those same 4 topics for the July newsletter or a subset of those. Assuming that we can get these, I think we can get these topics up on the website for July. Unless anyone has any other July topics they want to make sure we get into the newsletter. No?
No, not at this point. So
right.
these would be good.
Same topics.
Yes.
And that would be nice because we can position it as a, here's a refresh of what's on the page, here's some evergreen content available. We're going to table item 8.5 for the next meeting. And hopefully actually get to it. Item 8.6. Janet, any other recent EAC events? I do want to make a call out to Cindy Mahalo because she has been coordinating going to all the pollinator gardens still to continue with invasive removal and replanting to make sure it's full and lush.
Yes, well, there are a number of Birdtown activities that we've done. On May the 9th, we celebrated World Migratory Bird Day at Garrett Williamson. Mike McGraw led our walk and identified by sight or sound 50 species that were flying through.
Oh,
in
really?
a 2-hour period of time.
That's
So
amazing.
we are, as we know, here on the Atlantic Flyway. Let's see, on May 17th, I attended the Valley Forge Audubon Clutch. We shared activities, and that's where the Chimney Swift Tower information was shared. Let's see, on May the 26th, Steve was present when I presented to the Board of Supervisors the important bird area signs for our parks. And today I delivered those signs back to George. So he'll be deciding where to place those signs in our 4 parks that were falling within the upper Ridley from IBA. And also I gave the certificate for our gold certification, and Mary even observed it in the frame that's there in the hallway. Let's see, June the 2nd, where I partnered with Parks and Rec and the library for seed planting activities for the kids, the preschool kids at Drexel Lodge Park. And then on Saturday, Kate and I will be partnering with the Historical Society, EAC, and the Starties Nursery to plant or to show a meeting meadow demonstration and offer free native plant seeds.
Excellent. We'll have other fun giveaways like stickers and lollipops for those who bring their kids to the paper mill house on Saturday.
Right, and there's a lot of other activities that are going on there. Basket weaving.
It's sold out. I tried.
And music too. So,
Mhm. Excellent.
everything looks good, except it's gonna be 90 degrees.
Well, it is. All right, excellent. So item 8.7, we're gonna go ahead and table because we still have emails going back and
Okay,
forth on
yeah,
that.
Yes.
Item 9, we have no new business. Item 10, I think we've already largely covered, Chris, right? Items for the next agenda. Item 11, there are no members of the public, so we'll go ahead and move past that. And then item 12, I will go ahead and declare this meeting adjourned.